Hello and welcome. My name is Cheryl Berry. I'm an adjunct professor at the Sacred Anatomy Academy and a practitioner of sacred anatomy energy medicine. Let me ask you, where do you find the inner strength and stamina that you need to not simply endure, but to thrive in a difficult time? Your instincts and training may not yet have given you what you need to address the demands of your world. In this 1 hour free class, Desda will lead you through one of the great sacred anatomy tools that she's developed to support a conscious life. So have a piece of paper and a pen to write a few things down for this upcoming exercise. So welcome to this Sacred Anatomy's first class in the ongoing series, Practical Spirituality, based on the Sacred Anatomy teachings of Desda Zuckerman. Desda will answer questions, so please write them down or enter your questions into the chat, and she will answer as many as she can. Desda Zuckerman is an author, a healer, a teacher, a speaker, an ordained minister, and clairvoyant whose work is based on a lifetime spent deciphering the swirling streams of energies she sees around all things. The Sacred Anatomy is your highly organized and intelligent body of light, and it includes your physical body. The Sacred Anatomy is your own personal connection to infinite divine consciousness, and it is waiting for you to call upon it. In 1997, Desda Zuckerman founded the discipline Sacred Anatomy Energy Medicine. It's both an intentional healing modality as well as a philosophy based on the subtle anatomy located all around and including your physical body. Desda documented her decades of studying it in her encyclopedic book, Your Sacred Anatomy, an owner's guide to the human energy structure, published in 2012. This has made her an internationally recognized pioneer of subtle energy medicine, and I can say personally, it has transformed my life. So now let us give a warm welcome to your teacher for this next hour, Desda Zuckerman.
Hi! So good to see you all. I'm thrilled that you're here. I'm looking and seeing old friends and new, and I always love it when people come to these classes who have never heard the teachings before, and yet here you are. It's wonderful. Hello, 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 and truly welcome from the bottom of my heart. So, welcome to the Sacred Anatomy Academy. That's where we are today. And this is the first of our practical spirituality series. What are attachments and letting them go? Just really, once and for all, letting them go. And I'm so glad you're here now because I'm excited to share this great sacred anatomy based energy tool with you. And whether you're new or just discovering us or an old friend of my work, thank you for joining me. And please kick back, put your feet up, and enjoy the adventure. So today, I'd like you to keep a running tally, a running list of what you think your attachments are as they come up for you while I'm talking. So just write them down because at the end of the class, actually, before the end of the class, in the last half hour, we're going to do a procedure that will allow you to release some of these. So I'd like you to start your list now. Write down whatever comes up. There's no wrong answer. And I would suggest that you not choose the most difficult experience of your life. Start with something small. Start with something really that you can, chew on and that you can swallow, that you can actually do, as opposed to something that feels like it's going to take a lot more work. So that's the point of this exercise, to clean up, to clear out, and to release. So together, let's set our intention. I'd invite you all to take a nice deep breath with me. And take time to just slow down, become present in your head, in your chest, in your gut, in your arms, and in your legs, to really feel yourself present. Feel the molecules of your body percolating. And let's open our minds and our hearts to our true potential, accepting that inner clarity and understanding will always lead us forward. Open to possibility, let us feel and know that our shared intention will radiate out to benefit the whole of humanity. Now let's open our shared field. In Sacred Anatomy, we like to consciously open the field. So let us unite with the angels who stand around us, the teachers, the guides, the healers, the guardians, the great ancestors, and clasp hands with them. Let us reach out into that shared field in the cause of our own usefulness. Let us radiate love and compassion out from this field and hold in our minds a clear vision of a cohesive, peaceful planet where all people know safety, food, and warmth. In this moment, let us create a unified, united field of hope where each of our gifts are received and given, where health and harmony and light live in connection with all creation and true love abounds. So take a really big deep breath and breathe out love to all those you care about. Let your heart shine out to people in need, to the sick, the hungry, the homeless, to children everywhere. And may they all be filled with health and happiness. Now, with a beautiful open field, let's get started. The Buddha said that the root of suffering is attachment. In our world today, there are several ways the word attachment is used that are different from the way I think the Buddha meant. In Buddhism, the name of attachment is upadana, and it means a clinging or grasping behavior. People living with attachment are in the false belief, so it's said, that their happiness can be found by attachment to people, places, and things. And it's taught that attachment is about desire to control life, and it can be released through meditation and practices that change the mind. But in the early 1920s and 1930s, the development of a thing called attachment theory began to influence modern psychology. It's based in the understanding of human development beginning in early childhood. It's really about the relationship between the caregiver and the child. This work was expanded upon to apply to adults later in the 1970s, suggesting various types of attachment that people experience in their lives, affecting their relationships with friends, spouses, family, and in work environments. So the sacred anatomy approach is different from these. The human energy structure has taught us that it is possible to release attachment and to shift your awareness in a transformational way using consciousness. In life, things happen that stop our forward progress of growth and cause a feeling of stuckness. Some of these things are big, like a serious car accident, or some are small, like a snub from a friend. These are stones in the path of your soul's evolution. You have a choice about how you approach them. You can collect your pain and curate it in the museum of your discontent. How many of us have walked through that museum? Hello? Stagnant and safe, right? Or you can rise up out of the swamp of stagnation and take the risk of using your consciousness to actually shift your subtle self, and doing so, change your materially based life. Sacred Anatomy Energy Medicine works with two different energies. It works with subtle energy, which is the energy of the sphere, and it works with electromagnetic energy, the energy of your physical body and the electromagnetic field around it. These are some pictures that we've drawn of the electromagnetic field around the physical body. Some people call this the aura, but in my work I refer to it as the human electromagnetic field. And when we form attachments, these attachments are based in a beginning experience of an entanglement. So attachments first begin with a thing called an entanglement. A thin cord spins out from the electromagnetic field, and it moves through the rest of the human energy structure to connect with the object of your attention. For example, if you're driving a car, you have a entanglement with the steering wheel, with the key that you put into the ignition. You have an entanglement with the stop sign that's coming up, with the road that you're driving on. You have an entanglement with the person who's sitting next to you in the car. So you have millions of entanglements in a day. Regular entanglements release and dissipate in a couple of hours or less, even in minutes. But when an entanglement becomes charged by emotion, it contracts back into the energy structure, and it actually may not be released easily. These are what develop into attachments. Attachments are usually not about horrible life-changing events. They are about the irritations and upsets we all experience every day, the little picadillos. And that isn't to be said that horrible life-changing events can't have something to do with them. But if we're really going to break it down and take it apart, like you would dismantle an engine, you have to look at the little pieces. Because attachments are originally based in an exaggerated entanglement that has a charge from an interaction or internal reaction, they are strengthened by continued replaying of an incident. Rising out of remembered pain or irritation, an attachment develops into a kind of fixation, frozen in time and attached to your structure, sort of clinging to you. It will be based in the fear of what might happen next, the fear generated by the charge, or even before the charge. Even if it's anger that charges the attachment, it's still fear that gives it power to affect the energy structure, and of course, pardon me, in doing so, the life. Total non-attachment in and of itself is not the real goal. Let me state that again. Total non-attachment in and of itself is not the real goal. You've got to remain attached to some things. I heard His Holiness the Dalai Lama say in a lecture once that I attended, "Don't release all attachment." And of course, everybody in the room gasped, was shocked. And he said, "If you release all attachment, you will be like a cow standing in the field chewing grass." You want to remain attached to some things For example, and then he laughed that uproariously wonderful laugh, attaining enlightenment. I loved that. And I always remembered it. And it helped me really understand the value of an attachment and the value of releasing consciously. So, releasing attachment to excess debris and clutter, releasing attachment to things that have little meaning, and releasing attachment to people who are non reciprocal, where that flow isn't really happening, or possessions which are bogging you down and no longer have relevance or meaning. It just makes sense. And the sacred anatomy has given us a very unique way to do it. So I'm going to introduce the anatomy of an attachment. In the course of life, the human energy structure is a reactive structure that responds to stimulus and either opens into a relaxed, expansive state or contracts into a more watchful, smaller state. This is a natural human energy structure response and supports life in a million different ways. So this is a picture that some of you may be familiar with the concept of the bodies and the chakras. In sacred anatomy energy medicine, we've re-identified the bodies as the layers because there really is only one body. And that's the picture you're looking at, the one body. This is one of the 7 systems, the layers system. So it gives you an idea of the shape of the structure. Now, remember, this is an idealized shape. It isn't what everybody is walking around in. We all look a little bit different because we are so unique. But in the sacred anatomy, attachments evolve from natural everyday entanglements that become charged with that emotional content through an interaction or an event. Emotion, especially strong emotion, causes a contraction. And this contracted state, entanglements will establish themselves and become more permanent. Normally, an entanglement will release from the structure in less than a few hours. But with the addition of emotional intensity leading to fixation or looping, replaying an event, having an issue with somebody, now the simple entanglement has really become an attachment and it'll stay put until you work it out, right? Attachments can cause the human energy structure to become stagnant and to withdraw from a natural ebb and flow, which they normally have. Normal human energy structure movement of contraction and expansion becomes stuck in a place in a contracted state. Now, attachments can increase in volume when they're pulled together by proximity or content, such as a similar fixation. So, for example, irritation and frustration, 2 intense entanglements and attachments, grown to attachments, might band together to make a single attachment that causes a behavior trait in a person, such as impatience. But what elevates an event to an attachment is not the upset or the pain you experience. That's something different. That's a wounding, and that wounding can cause a pathology in the energy structure. But it is instead your fixation upon the moment of the event, your regret, your guilt, or even anger at yourself, the situation you found yourself in or another person, the beliefs and the defining ideas that shape and drive your life out of your history and, your traumas. You can be irritated about your own actions or your reaction to the event. I mean, how many of us have had that experience where we do something or we experience something and then we just beat ourselves mercilessly with it? That's creating an attachment, and it's getting bigger with every negative thought that you're having. So that attachment builds to kind of a peak, and you have to deal with it. You're forced to deal with it. Hopefully, none of you are there today. And we can just gently and easily lift some attachments out that will help you experience your life more deeply. Sacred anatomy contractions are essentially an awareness of the world around you. That's really a natural thing. They're based in micro fear responses that indicate to the human structure concern, danger, the need to be awake to a situation, surprise, and those are things that have potential to harm. You can think of them as a startle response, actually. But the question is, why has life startled you so completely? When we dig down fundamentally, subtle energy attachments are actually about fear. This is the root emotion that is most often buried underneath that little contraction that gets deeper over time. Letting go of the attachments that are stopping your progress is empowering. But first, we have to understand what they mean to you. So, how does an attachment serve you? So there's always good. There's always good in everything. And in an attachment, you will find that it can keep you safe from undesirable things or people, acting as a protection from harmful actions or behaviors from others and from yourself. And something that might have really worked for you 20 years ago may actually not be working for you now. And that attachment that you have about fear response and potentially lashing out or reactively jumping down somebody's throat might not have any reality in today's world. It's something that happened so long ago. It's actually not even a wound. It's just a reactive response. So the difference from patterns and attachments, there's a very interesting difference. When people have energetic patterns that they're using in their life, patterns that are based in real traumatic experiences that they've developed a whole series of reactions from, may have an influence of an attachment, but these are not identical. They're not the same. A pattern is shaping you, is forming you, creating your personality in a way, whereas an attachment is like a reaction. It's a flash. It's a momentary movement that may contribute to a pattern or may even have some basis in the pattern. They can be related, but they're not the same. It informs you of your surroundings and gives off warning signals to keep you from stumbling into situations that are difficult or uncomfortable, things out of your control. Attachments can help you develop your identity, and your personality will grow for them much from the fear of bad things as it does from the good of the good things, both of which can be attachments. So you can be attached to good things too. They can be helpful and good. I'm actually very attached to the way that gravy is made for Thanksgiving. I want it made just so. I'm very attached to that. Everybody in my family knows. And we've accepted that as a good attachment. But you want to do that kind of thing consciously. You don't want to create a situation where your good attachments are just somehow expected. Because that's actually kind of rude, isn't it? Like walking into someone's house and saying, I'll make the gravy, is not exactly the way to make friends and influence people, is it? But they can be good, they can be helpful, and they can be positive, habitual behaviors, such as finishing what you start or following through, following your heart, making good gravy. What can I say? So it also will cost you. Attachments can keep you caught in old behaviors and patterns because your attached contraction becomes more and more powerful as it is reinforced and built up by other attachments collected over time. And of course, patterns that develop and ways you're holding yourself and reading life. Attachment reaction becomes a consistent way to respond energetically by inventing reactive behaviors that don't come out of thinking and then acting, but are instead based in the contraction of attachment. Ooh. The same old fears and self-restrictive responses to stimuli dominate and control your life. So you may think you're protecting yourself, but actually what you're doing is running the same old routine, the same old pattern, the same old boring stuff, right? I don't know about you, but I'm sick of this. I'm sick of this this attachment stuff. It's a rut, you know? This can be positive. Attachment, grown old and in the way of your growth and evolution, will, however, keep you small. So if you want to remain small, hold on to those attachments. But if it's time to step out and get big in your life and in your world, I say, let those suckers go. So I'm going to take some questions now, and I want to be sure that I answer them for you if I can. If you've put them in the chat, I'll be able to look at them. And then right after that, we're going to jump into doing some procedures, doing some actual stuff. Ooh, let's see. Do I have any questions in the chat? And I don't. So if you have a question, please raise your hand and speak up. And if you don't, I'll just keep rocking and rolling. It's what I know how to do. I'm looking. I want to be sure. Oh, here we go. Hi, Desda. How can we be free of attachments like astral parasites and negative elementals? Okay, that's a whole different thing. That's a whole different game. First of all, I don't call them attachments. Those are not attachments. That's a serious condition that needs to be addressed. And the best thing I could say would be to see a sacred anatomy, energy medicine practitioner, and astral parasites and negative elementals can be removed that way. So let's see now. Christina. That was from Ben, by the way. And thank you, Ben, for asking. Can you dissipate an attachment by locating the emotion in the body and dissolving it there? Well, I'm going to show you how to dissipate an attachment, but it's my preference to move outside the body, to pull the attachment away from the physical and not put the body through that. So I'm interested in having it easy. Basically, I'm interested in ease, comfort, and fun and humor. And if you're working on something in your body, it may be helpful in a bodywork session to stay attentive to that. But in this kind of work in sacred anatomy, energy medicine, we don't work on the physical body, we work on the subtle. So we would be processing it and working with it in the subtle. Nurit Nardi says, is an attachment only to things outside of you, or can you be attached to a habit or an emotion? I would suggest that a habit will develop out of attachment, and that habit would be related to reactivity. So the reactivity that you have in relationship to your emotional content could be considered an attachment. Chances are that habit or emotion arose from within you in response to something else. So that's where we find ourselves when we're walking through this this world, this land, we find ourselves in a place where energetic truth can speak to us. And it almost always has an emotional content. So if we pay attention, we can use that, all emotion, as a kind of driver. Emotion is an event that occurs in that electromagnetic field. And it isn't really part of our soul structure, the subtle energy structure. And now we have, would a habit of financial scarcity, this is from Amy, be considered an attachment? I think the fear and the loathing about financial insecurity would definitely be an attachment. But the reason why you're in that place, that fear, that's deeper than financial scarcity. So financial scarcity is kind of a secondary level. So we want to go down. We want to go down in the layers. So what about, this is from Angela, what about solar flares and negative effects on the body? Well, solar flares are really not attachments. They are things that are happening in our solar system. We have solar flares, and they do affect the electromagnetic field. So you can experience a solar flare not even knowing that that's what's going on, and you cannot feel good that day. And that, unfortunately, is something we can't control. We can't really control the sun, but we can understand that it's affecting us. It is, however, not an attachment or an entanglement. Okay, are there any other questions? Or should I? Oh, here's one from Pat. All right, Pat's always got good questions. How do you identify subtle attachments of belief or dogma, thus opening yourself to greater possibility of life, vision, and ability? I realized last year the truth of your words regarding fear. Realizing fear had driven most of my life. Now I am so clear, almost just don't know what to do with myself. So, and then he has looking F. So I'm hopeful that's looking forward. You can, if you want to finish that sentence, Pat, that would be great. But let me address this. So subtle attachments of belief and dogma. Basically, these are, again, you want to think of attachments and entanglements as kind of this layer cake, right? So at the very bottom, you've got an entanglement. And that entanglement is your first introduction to some sort of a belief system. And then over that comes an emotional reaction, and you develop into an attachment. So you're attached to a belief or a dogma. He says, forward, meanings have shifted. I have no purposeful meaning. Okay. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Pat. Drifting? Drifting.
So
is that drifting?
So yeah, I've been doing and working with a Lakota ceremony for about 7 years, and it has cleared me. And several people who can see the energy body have said that, like, what happened to you? And what I'm struggling with this year is I don't know what to do. It's like I realize so much of my life has been driven by these false stories and beliefs and dogmas, and they're gone. And I'm like, it's almost like floating on a breeze, like, oh my gosh. And so, I mean, I'm doing nature time and enjoying that. I have energy healing work that I've been doing for over 20 years, but I just don't really feel. It's weird how all those fears drove me so much, and now it's like nothing's driving me. It's almost like I have no attachment, and yet I have a Buddhist teacher, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to walk around like that cow in the field. I'm not going to do that, but I don't know what, I don't know what to attach to. Does that make any sense? uh,
It sounds, yes, I can see that you're at a place where you really need to realize that this is your karma yoga and it's time for you to just give back. If you get empty enough to release attachment like that, and you're really feeling very, very clear, then your job essentially is to give.
right. That's good. Thank you. That confirms something too.
Okay, dude.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I had a
All right.
one in a million chance. Go ahead.
All right. I'm so glad that you said that and asked that question. It was really brilliant. I'm glad I had a chance to respond. But we're going to move on now because this is just a short window here. We don't have a lot of time. And I'm going to jump into our exercises today. So the first exercise I'm going to do, some of you may already know it, but I'm going to teach you one called severing entanglements because they're the very bottom of an attachment. So we want to avoid those if we can. So severing entanglements is a wonderful exercise that simply prevents the formation of entanglements by severing them. The little baby ones that have already attached. Today you probably picked up thousands of them. So this is a nice little thing to do for yourself. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to put my hand up and I'm going to ask Archangel Michael to lend me his sword. Now, if you don't like angels, you're not an angel believer, or you're put off by angels, there are people in the world who have that experience, then you can think of the lightsaber from Star Wars. That's fine. So just think in terms of a beautiful sword. So Archangel Michael, please lend me your sword. And then just wait for that sword to kind of land in your hand. And when you have it, you want to sever entanglements at your front. Sever entanglements to your left. Sever entanglements to your right. Sever entanglements behind you. Sever entanglements below you, way below you. Sever entanglements above you. And then you can kind of wave that sword around like a figure eight, picking up any entanglement that you missed, catching them all. And when you feel you're complete, you can say, "Thank you, Archangel Michael," and give the sword back. So that's a really simple thing. Very simple and kind of old school spiritualist thing to do. But here's something that's a little different. We're now going to push away from us entanglement threads that are reaching out to us. So I'm going to push them away, push them back to where they belong at my front, push them away to my left. Take a breath and push them away to my right. Push them away behind me. Push them away below me. And push them away above me. Now, you guys are all sensitive, so you can feel that that actually does make a difference, that you feel different. But this is even better. I'm going to pull back the entanglements that I've thrown out with other people. So I'm going to pull them back at the front. This is pulling my own energy back, nobody else's. And I'm going to pull them back to my left, pull them back to my right, pull them back behind me, pull them back below me, and pull them back above me. And that's a very simple, sweet little exercise called severing entanglements that we want to do to prepare for releasing attachments. So now we've got just enough time to do this, and I'm very excited to share this with you. So at the bottom of that stack, we were talking about the entanglement and then the attachments and multiple attachments. There's a kind of way that the structure pulls in. So you saw this nice rounded, smooth oval. It doesn't look like that when you have a lot of entanglements. Your entanglements can be pulled in, your attachments can be pulled in, and there's a contraction that's underway. So to release them, we first need to define what they are. So have you guys got your lists figured out? You got some lists already underway? It's not hard, is it? there's plenty. So now what you're doing is you're naming them. And by doing that, you're essentially claiming them and owning them. You're saying, this is something that I have going on in my life. So I'm going to give you just a brief minute to make sure your list is complete. As complete as it needs to be for right now. Because it is in the claiming of things that we're actually able to take responsibility for them and let them go. Okay, finish up your list. And wherever you are, that'll be good enough. So we're only going to just really focus on a couple of things. So naming my attachments, making a list of what they are. So I want you to choose your favorite attachment, make a big circle around it, and your second favorite attachment, make it a circle around. You're going to work with two. So now we're going to go a little bit deeper. I want you to look at that first attachment and say, what happens to me if this is gone? So for example, if I'm impatient, and that's something that I'm attached to. What's wrong with people? They don't know how to get things done on time. I'm impatient. What happens if I'm no longer impatient? And just let your mind open to that possibility. And now look at, what would it cost me to live without it? What would it cost me to live without it? And take a breath. Notice if you're holding your breath. What would it cost me to live without it? And then another question you could answer would be, what would I lose if I didn't have this attachment? What would I lose? What might I never do again? And now I want you to ask this question. Look at your attachment. And of course you can do one or two if you'd like, but primarily your first one. What is it that I am most afraid of about my attachment? What is it that I'm most afraid of? about my attachment? How is that affecting my body, mind, and spirit? What am I most afraid of about my attachment? And take another moment to write down what you're most afraid of. We had a question from Amy about financial security. What am I most afraid of about my attachment to thinking of myself as not having enough financial security? What is that doing for me? Now, focusing on your fear this moment, just the fear of what you're afraid of with the attachment, what you're afraid of letting go of, focusing on that fear, crystallize it. Find it wherever it is in your larger energy structure, which is huge, 20 feet out on all sides. Or maybe it's in your physical body. Feel where it has landed and where it is crystallized. Where does that fear speak to you? And any place is going to be a winner. Where are you feeling it right now? Where are you feeling it in your structure? As it arises in you, this awareness of the fear that's the base of that attachment, where does it sit in you? Now see if you can't, now that you've located it, now see if you can't separate it and distance it. Actually set it aside for a moment. Just set your attachment aside. You can do that by extending your light fingers and grabbing it wherever it is and suspending your doubt. Use your imagination. Move that attachment aside and set it to the side. Just set it to the side. And pull it out of your body. Pull it out of your physical body. Pull it where it sits in, if it's got you by the throat or in the chest, just reach your light fingers and pull it out and set it in this pile you're making over here. Now pull it out of your mind. Stick your fingers into your head, pull it out of your mind and set it in that pile. So now you've got these body and mind. Pull it out of your heart, because fear and attachment will just break your heart. So reach into your heart and pull out of your heart anything that's related to that attachment and just make a big pile. And now pull it out of your spirit, all around you, your spirit, that which is the deepest part of who you are. Pull it out and set it in your pile. Whew. So keep going until you're finished. You want to keep going until you feel like you've got it all and you're just clean as a whistle. Keep going. And what's great about this is that little things that irritate you during a day, maybe you bounced a check or, something happened that was upsetting. You discovered mold in your bedroom. Now you have to wash everything. So just any of those little things can rise to the level of attachment. And if you handle them right away by doing this, body, mind, spirit, pull it out of your heart and set it in a pile. then you begin to have an empty space in you. Now let's do something with that pile. What do you say? So what we're going to do is we're going to get our hands underneath it. We're going to take a deep breath, lift the pile up, and then you're going to kind of condense it a little, make it like a little ball, and throw it into the sun and clap your hands. And then it's gone. It's just gone. But you still got all this empty space. So what we're going to do is call on universal love and light from the mind and the heart of the divine source and fill up all the places in us, anywhere and everywhere, that is empty right now. We're going to fill it up with universal love and light. Oh, there we go. And it starts to feel very powerful as you're starting to expand and develop, and you're calling on universal love and light yourself. You're calling it in. Because you can. We all can. Magical healing can occur. It's possible. All right. And now we bring in integration. So the energy of integration. So the whole structure, the physical body, the mind, the heart, the spirit, every part of you feeling integrated and strong, released attachment. There we go. And we're now stabilized, feeling stable. Take a deep breath. Accept just the possibility that something has happened that's positive. You don't have to believe in anything. And take another deep breath and accept just the possibility that you are whole and that releasing this attachment has given you greater clarity. And now take a big breath into your heart and accept just the possibility that more love can come your way because some of that fear has gone. There you go. Good job. And more integration, integrating you completely. Feeling that integration coming from the mind and heart of divine source. So thank you. That was a very gentle procedure. I don't believe in, traumatizing people who are recovering from trauma. I think it's a lot better to do things in a gentle, supportive way. But what I would love to do is ask you about your experience just now. We have a few minutes, and I'd love for you to share a little bit about what's happened for you. Even just a tiny bit. It'd be great to hear from you. Anybody? I know, it's hard to share, isn't it? Hard to jump out in front of people with your clothes off.
No, I'll say something.
Hi,
Can you hear
Andrea.
me? Hi. Just, I mean, I do feel just that lift and that clearing and just not inviting it back, just receiving that it's lifted up and moving from this space. So I appreciate this afternoon and thank you.
You're welcome, Andrea. Andrea and I met at a rock shop the other day.
That was so awesome. And
It
so I'm
was.
so glad to be familiar with you now.
I'm
So
glad
thank you
you're
so
here.
much.
I truly am. I really am.
Yeah,
Let's see,
thank
there were
you.
a
And thank
couple
you
of
for
other.
sharing this with all of us.
Oh, you're welcome. And let's see, there were a couple of people who jumped in and had comments. No, that's not it. Here we go. Tanya says, Kali. All right, I'm with you. And Pat says, wow, that answered my question big. I could feel things leaving and feel the universe entering. Oh, and Amy says, I didn't realize it was in my heart. When I felt it there, it brought tears up. Oh, hallelujah. That's a very deep divine movement. Beautiful. Barbara says, I didn't have a good reason, I thought, to release attachment to impatience, being on time. But it felt good to let a good lot of it go. It is true. So many of us have that little niggly bit about being impatient. I know I do. And Angela says, that was fabulous. Many thanks. Barbara says, thank you, Desda. That was wonderful. Leah, feeling lighter, more open. Thank you. Pat again says, what's the purpose of clapping when the pile goes to the sun? Well, do you really want to know, you guys? The purpose of clapping is that it feels great. So that's the purpose. I like to build things in that make you feel better and better and better. And let's see. Donald Lee says, thank you, Dust. I do feel freer now. Great. Tanya, very helpful. I'm preferring to be off camera. I'm grateful this resonates. So glad, Tanya. Thank you. And Pat is smiling and crying and laughing. So that's wonderful. Thank you guys for being brave and stepping up. That was wonderful to hear some of your responses and feelings. It's great to get feedback. Christina says, how often should we repeat this exercise? I'm going to tell you, Christina, you should do it as often as you feel like. This is not one of those things that you have to restrict yourself on. This is like, if I feel cluttery and life is too much with me, then yeah, I'm going to do this, releasing attachments. Well, I'd like to share a couple of things with you about some things that are coming up in the Sacred Anatomy Academy. Oh, Tasha's your sister, Tanya Hughes. Oh, how wonderful. Oh, I love that you're here. She's in training right now to be a healer with me. And this work you're sharing brings her to a new level. Thank you, dear. Thank you so much. So here's the first class that I want to share with you. This is March 2nd, 10 a.m. to noon. And it's based on the book that I wrote called Magical Beings of the Natural World. And it's a little thin book. It's on Amazon right now. But we are going to concentrate in this first workshop in this series of the Natural Beings, Magical Beings of the Natural World series. We're going to concentrate on fairies. We're going to call fairies. So I'm going to teach you how to do that. So you can go in your garden and call fairies. So it's a very fun thing, and it's available to everyone, and just a wonderful, wonderful class. The next one that I want to share with you is our next in this series, which is Taming Your Wild Monkey Mind. Some of you may have a monkey mind that's running your life a little out of control and sort of a drama king or queen. And this class will focus on that. And it's just a 1-hour practical spirituality series. And I will charge for the next one, but only $24. It's just priced for people to really be able to do it. So everybody can take that class. I hope you will attend and come and experience Taming Your Wild Monkey Mind with me. Check our website to register the Monkey Mind class. You'll be able to register fairly soon for. And please join us for that continuing series. But best of all, I just want to thank you guys for coming today. This was so wonderful. I want to thank the Sacred Anatomy team, my beloved Bobby, who supports me in so many ways, but who runs the cameras and the sound and everything. Cheryl, who's my wonderful support person and my partner in crime here. And Kimmy, who does the wonderful graphics and artwork, and Guige, who's our webmaster. So thank you to the Sacred Anatomy team. I hope to see you in March. And I just want to, a shout out to Marla and Clyde. Mwah! And to Amy, too. Mwah! We're all members of a choir back in the 70s called the Fairfax Street Choir, and that was a big heart opening for all of us. So thank you. Thanks to Marla and Clyde, who were big actors in that choir, made it happen. Hearts and flowers to all of you. Thank you guys for coming. Much love. Many, many hugs. May you have a beautiful, beautiful, lovely, gorgeous rest of your day. Hope to see you in March. Bye-bye.